Hey everyone, Amanda here. So I am back on YouTube for a bit, I guess. I haven't done a face vlog kind of video in a long time, but I wanted to make this video to talk about my experience in quarantine. So for those that don't know, I recently traveled back from the States to Malaysia, and I am currently undergoing a mandatory 2-week quarantine at a government designated facility. This is part of a new rule issued by the government due to the coronavirus pandemic. So I am currently filming this in my hotel room where I'm being quarantined, and my setup right now, it's super weird. I have a reading lamp lighting up my face, so I'm really sorry if the video looks really weird. Over the past couple of days, I've been getting a lot of questions asking about my whole experience with traveling and quarantine, so I thought that I would make this video to address all of the concerns from you guys. And I also wanted to create this video for anyone who might be traveling back to Malaysia anytime soon. I hope that this video can give you some clarity and give you an idea of what to expect when you come back into Malaysia. To make things easier, I'm going to be splitting up this video into 4 parts. I'm going to be talking about my flying experience, my pre-quarantine experience, which is the whole process of coming from the airport to the quarantine center. I'm also going to be talking about how quarantine has been like for me, and I'm also going to be giving you some tips which I think might be helpful for anyone who might be coming back. And if you don't want to listen to the whole video, don't worry. I'm going to be putting timestamps for these 4 sections in the description box below, so you can jump around and listen to whatever parts that you want to listen to. Anyways, let's get started. Hi, this is Amanda from the future. I realized that I had accidentally deleted the videos of me explaining how my flight was, so here I am 2 days later re-recording that part for you guys. So my entire travel journey took about 26 hours in total, and this is including flying time and transit time as well. So I had to take 3 flights to get home. I flew out from Oklahoma City, and I went to Chicago, then to Narita, Japan, and then to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I flew out using United and ANA. I would say that flying during the current pandemic was an interesting experience. On one hand, I was honestly really scared of just interacting with so many people and just having a higher risk of getting the virus from someone, which thankfully it is a week after I flew home and I feel pretty okay. Other than that, I would say that it was really interesting to see how empty the airports were. I'm used to flying a lot, and so just seeing how these airports, especially like the big international ones, like there was this lack of people, there was a lack of busyness. It was just a really foreign experience for me. And even on the plane, my flights home normally are pretty packed just because it's a big international flight, but for the first time there were so many seats kind of empty in those flights, and like I had a whole row to myself for 3 of my flights home, which was really great. But it's kind of sad just thinking about how far this pandemic has been affecting everything. But other than that, my flights were honestly really smooth, and I'm super thankful that it went as well as it did. And their airplane crew were really helpful as well. They were wearing masks and gloves when interacting with us just to make sure that we don't catch any germs or whatever, and they were super helpful with everything as well as usual. And like I said earlier, because my flights weren't full, the crew tried to make us all sit away from each other just so we can practice social distancing. So it was really nice to have that extra leg space and all that, but I think I don't know, I still find it kind of sad just to see the reality of things now. But on the bright side, the food was great as always. I always expect the best quality from ANA, and just, yeah, it was great. I mean, where else am I gonna get ice cream at like thousands of feet in the air? But yeah, those are my flying updates. I'm gonna pass it back to Amanda in the past now. So my flight from Japan landed in Malaysia at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport on April 7th at around 11:50 p.m. at night. So after we landed, we immediately got into the building, and I just remember seeing how empty everything was. All the shops were closed and everything, and it just made me feel really sad at the time. So after we landed, we were immediately escorted to a gate where we had to wait for a airport shuttle bus to pick us up to the main terminal building. Normally you would use the Aerotrain to bring you there, but they had suspended the service. So they let us all board the buses in small groups so that we could have as much of space in the bus as possible, because they wanted us to practice social distancing. We all had to stand in these boxes marked in yellow on the floor just to make sure there was enough space between each person. So once we got into the main terminal building, we were immediately guided to get our temperature scanned. They did this through thermal screening, and it was really quick. They made us all line up, and one by one we had to stand in front of a giant monitor, and once we get scanned and we're good to go, they'll let us go into the next process. So thankfully all of my friends made it through. So after getting a temperature scan, you immediately go through what I call the form process. You were directed to these stations where you had to fill out a form and get some forms. And at this part, there are two forms that you have to watch out for. So the first form is the health declaration form. This is a form that you have to fill out, and there were two parts. The first part is your personal identification information, where you write out your name, your IC number, passport number, flight details, that sort of thing. And the second part of the form was the COVID-19 response form. So it was questions like, did you go to a country that had coronavirus in the last 2 weeks? Did you experience any symptoms of COVID-19? Did you come into contact with anyone with COVID-19? That sort of thing. It was really straightforward, and if you had any questions, the airport staff would be there to guide you if needed. So once you got your health declaration form filled out and handed in to the person in charge, you were then escorted to a different station. Over here, you would meet with one of the members of staff, and they would provide you with a home assessment tool. Now this is really important, and you cannot lose this form. The home assessment tool basically requires you to track your symptoms for all 14 days of your quarantine. At the bottom section of the paper, you will see a table with 14 days where they will ask you to write in the date and tick off whether you have fever, cough, or difficulty breathing. So once you've been briefed by that member of staff and you have the form, they will then guide you to immigration. So normally if you carry a Malaysian passport, you can just go through AutoGate. However, they have suspended this service as well. So you had to do immigration face-to-face with an officer, but it was fine. The officers were wearing masks as well, so you don't have to worry about that. So once immigration was cleared, you would then go into this other part of the airport where you had to fill in another form. I would say that this form would be called the registration form. There wasn't really a name per se, but I believe that this was used by the quarantine officers to keep track. So in this form, they basically just asked you for your personal details, that sort of thing. It was super easy to fill out. So once you filled out the registration form and handed it into the person in charge, you were then escorted to the next phase. Over here, you would be divided into groups of 20 and asked to wait in separated sections. This is for you to board the bus later. And even while waiting, the chairs are marked off with tape to make sure that everyone sits socially distant away from each other. And after waiting for a while, they would then ask you to go and get your bag. So you would go in groups of 20 to the baggage claim area and collect your bags. And it was really nice because they have already pulled off their baggage for you from the conveyor belt. So you just had to go over to the pile of luggages and take your bag and then line up at the gate again. And so once everyone collected their baggage, it was time for everyone to board the bus. So they all made us line up in single file and be socially distant away from each other, and they would make you board the bus one by one. And I would say this process was the most intimidating because they had cops with guns standing by, they had security guards standing by, and they had a whole hazmat team over there as well. So the atmosphere felt really strict. So one by one, you would go over to the front, have the hazmat team sanitize your luggages and your carry-ons, and once you're good to go, you would then board the bus. So once we got on the bus, initially they wanted us to sit away from each other and practice social distancing, but I think my flight had too many baggages, so they had to bring some bags onto the bus itself and not in the luggage compartment. We had a guy come up and jokingly scold all of us for that. So we were all required to pair up according to gender and sit in the bus. So we waited in the bus for quite a while before we left. We were just mainly waiting for the last bus to get everything sorted out before we left. Finally, it was time to leave. We felt the bus move and there we went. I would like to note that they didn't actually announce where we were going to go at all. I know of friends that told me that people had announced it before they left the airport, but in our case, no one told us where we were going, so we were all kind of in the dark about that. However, I do believe that they put everyone on your same flight into the same building, so all of you guys would be sticking together in that sense. And so after a while of driving, we eventually parked outside of Sunway Pyramid Hotel. At first, I was kind of confused. I was like, okay, is this where we're really gonna stay? And then I noticed at the front of the gate, where the main entrance is, there were a lot of police officers. There was a lot of people in protective equipment as well, so I kind of assumed that was going to be our stay. Hi, this is Amanda from the future again. I realized that I forgot to say this in the original video, but I wanted to mention that you don't have the choice in where you're going to go for your quarantine center. This is assigned to you by the officials. All I know is that you can choose to stay at the summer hotel. However, that will be covered by your own pocket. I believe it is 350 ringgit per night, and that includes meals, so that's gonna be 350 ringgit times 14 for your total amount. And I also want to mention, from what I've heard from other people, your quarantine center might not be in Kuala Lumpur alone. I have heard that they have moved people out to other states like Malacca. When you get to the airport, I suggested you kind of talk to an official to get more information on that, but this is all from what I've heard. But yeah, you can't choose where your hotel is. That's the bottom line. Alright, back to a matter from the past. So we were the second bus, and so we had to wait for the first bus to unload. And so the unloading process was like this. They would make all of us unload in groups of 3. You were called off the bus and you had to take your luggage and then go and line up in the main lobby. And so in the main lobby, there was a lot of stations with a lot of people dressed in protective equipment. And so one by one, you were called up to the front where you had to give in your passport for them to make a copy. And you also had your temperature taken, and then you were given your room key and then a bag of food. So once you collected everything, you would then take your luggage and you were escorted to a lift where they would usher you to board the lift one by one. So I had a whole lift to myself, which was super nice. And so get up the lift, and then you got to your floor, and then you would go into your room. And that's where I am at the moment. And I should mention that it is a 1 room per person policy with the quarantine thing. So you don't have a roommate. I am living in this hotel room by myself. And I mean, the room is really nice as well. You know, it has a really nice bathroom and a whole bedroom with a TV and all that. It was honestly, I'm super blessed to be here. So I would say the entire process from landing to checking into the hotel took about 3 hours. I think most of it was just spent waiting for further instruction from the police officials, but honestly, it wasn't super bad. Here we are at quarantine. I am on day 5 of my 14-day quarantine. Is it day 5? Yes, day 5. And while staying in a hotel room is honestly super nice, there's also a lot of rules that you have to follow according to the quarantine process. And it's all outlined in this guideline sheet that they gave to us when we first came in. In this guideline, they basically just outline that you're not allowed to leave your room, this is a non-smoking hotel, you're not allowed to have any visitors, and all hotel facilities are closed. And the main rule in staying in the hotel over here is that you're not allowed to leave your room under any circumstances whatsoever. So you can't even step out into the hallway or into the corridor. And this rule is so important to the point where they make a very loud announcement over the PA system in your room at 7 AM every single morning. It is my wake-up call.
Yang membawa kepada hukuman denda atau penjara atau kedua-duanya sekali. Sekian, terima kasih.
It is basically an announcement that lasts for about 2 minutes, and it is a message from the PDRM announcing that, hi guys, you can't leave your room. Please, here's a reminder, don't leave your room or you're gonna get fined or thrown into jail for 2 years. And there's also a rule that you are only allowed to use the Grab food delivery service for dry foods or essential items, so you're not allowed to order any food or drinks whatsoever. And honestly, you don't have to worry too much about food. They do provide you food, and they provide you 3 meals a day. They provide food at 7 AM, 12:30 PM, and 6:30 PM. Now, these times are kind of what they say in the guidelines, but it's not super strict. They sometimes deliver it super early or later than that, so that's just something to keep in mind. And with food delivery, there is no human contact either. What they'll do is they'll tie your food into a plastic bag, and then they'll hang it on your door outside, and they'll knock or ring the bell to let you know that food is here. And then you would go to the door and take the food in, and that was that. So there was zero human contact whatsoever. You won't even see who delivered the food to you. And with the food, typically you would have a main dish, which is like the rice or the noodle, and then you have a side dish, which could be a vegetable, and then sometimes you could even get a dessert like cake. And besides that, you'll also get a bottle of water with every meal, and you'll also get maybe an apple or a pear as a fruit. And they will also provide a plastic utensil and a napkin to you, and they will seal this in a plastic bag for cleanliness purposes. And I will say that the food portion is on the smaller side. For me, I'm used to eating the American portion, so this was a bit of an adjustment for me, and I got really hungry in between, but not to worry, they do provide snacks to you. I got my bag of snacks from them on day 2 of quarantine, and there was a bunch of stuff in it like potato chips, biscuits, and juice boxes, so I'm really thankful for that. In terms of how the food tastes, it is decent. I mean, it is free food, so I will take whatever, and I'm super thankful for it, but it is decent, so don't have your hopes up all the way. And I should mention that all the hotels and all the food we don't have to pay for anything. If you're still hungry and you want to eat something else, you can choose to order room service, but this will be paid out of your own pocket. And besides snacks, they also provide a bag of toiletries. I actually got my bag just before I was filming this video. It's a small little bag with some toothbrushes, a small towel, shampoo, body soap, that sort of thing. So I was super happy receiving that as well. And unlike your ordinary hotel stay, there is no room cleaning service provided here. Obviously, that is to avoid human contact at all costs. However, they do provide us with an extra linen and bed sheet for us to change our beds on our own, and also an extra towel for us to use. And obviously the big question over here, how is the Wi-Fi? Well, I am fortunate enough to get into a hotel that has good Wi-Fi. It is fairly stable for the most part, however, the connection does drop every so often. But besides that, it runs pretty smoothly, so I'm super happy about that. And another question that I've been getting is whether I've been tested for COVID-19 yet. And as of filming this video right now, I actually haven't. So far, the only thing that has been done is health officials coming over to take my temperature, and that was just on day 1. Other than that, I haven't had any medical professionals come in and check up on me or anything. However, the hotel does call us every single day with the hotel phone asking if we have any symptoms. Once you report that you don't have it, they just say, okay, well, that's fine. If you have any symptoms, just call them back. And that was it. It's really simple. So that is it for my experience and story with the whole flying to quarantine process, and now I'm going to give you guys some tips on what I think you guys should do before flying back. So number 1, if you are a student and you still have online classes going on at this time while you're traveling, please talk to your lecturers in advance. This is what really helped me, because before I flew back, I wasn't sure if I was going to be put in a place where I had Wi-Fi or not, and it is better for you to prepare yourself that you might not be able to have Wi-Fi for 2 weeks. In my case, I emailed all of my lecturers about a week before I flew, and I said, hey, I'll be flying back to Malaysia, and due to this new rule from the government, I am not sure if I will have Wi-Fi at these facilities, and I hope that we can work around this. And honestly, my lecturers were super nice, and they were able to work with me on this and extend my deadlines if needed. But obviously, now that I have Wi-Fi, I've reached out to all of them and told them that I am okay now. So just to be safe and make sure that you don't get penalized for something that you're not in charge of, just make sure that you reach out to your lecturers and let them know in advance. Tip number 2, try to find people on your same flight and make friends with them. Honestly, traveling through this entire experience was a lot better than I expected because I had 3 of my friends traveling back with me. It really does help to have someone you know on the same process with you, just because, you know, you feel less alone about this entire thing, and it is a new thing and it is scary. So if you don't know anyone that's going to be on your flight, try to make new friends. And if you need help with making friends, this is a mini tip for you. So there is a group on Facebook called Malaysia Quarantine Center Support Group. It is a public group and it's super easy to join. I actually joined it right before I flew back to Malaysia. And over there's always people typing in posts asking, hi, is anyone flying back on this date from here to here? And that's how people get connected. So you can do the same thing too. It is going to be so much more worth it when you know that someone is on the same flight as you. It makes you feel a lot less alone in this entire process. Tip number 3, when you're traveling around, make sure you wear masks and gloves whenever you can. This is just making sure that you protect yourself from any possible contact with the virus. It's gonna be a hassle. I know it was for me, mainly with the mask. Like, whenever I was wearing the mask, it would be so tight to the point where my ears would kind of fold over and it would ache super badly, but it is worth it in the long run. I'd rather kind of go through some pain for a while and suffer temporarily than risk getting the virus. Try to get as many masks and gloves as you possibly can so that you can change out those masks as well. Tip number 4. Get hand sanitizer and wipes for your flight. In my opinion, this is really important to keep yourself clean. I would always use hand sanitizer wherever I go just to make sure that my hands and my gloves were clean. And these wipes I find are really important because I use these to wipe down any surface that I came in contact with. So whether it was a seat in the airport, I would wipe that down, or whether it was in the plane, I would wipe down the armrest, the TV screen, the remote, the table. I think this is really important just to make sure that your surroundings are clean and you don't risk contracting anything that was left there. Tip number 5, bring a pen. I know this sounds kind of silly, but trust me, when we got into Malaysia, there were so many forms that we had to fill out, and because there were so many of us, they didn't have a lot of pens to provide for us. The wait lines were super long, and luckily for me, I could just cut through all the lines because I had a pen in my hand and I was just signing off everything by myself. So trust me on this, bring a pen with you. It's gonna save you so much time and make the process so much easier with filling out all the forms and everything. Tip number 6. Try to pack enough clothes for 14 days. There is no certainty on whether you're going to be able to get laundry services. I know that certain quarantine facilities have laundry services, but I don't think my place has it. And it would be better for you to prepare for the fact that you might not be able to have a lot of clean clothes. So try to pack enough clothes to wear for 14 days or pack detergent. Tip number 7. Pack extra toiletries and a towel. Once again, there is no guarantee that you're going to be getting anything at your quarantine centers. I always try to prepare for the worst. I'm lucky that I brought my travel size shampoo and conditioner because when I first came to my hotel room, I didn't have anything. I didn't have any toothbrushes, I didn't have all the small hotel soaps and all that, so I had to use my own, and I was super lucky that I brought my own toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo, conditioner, everything. So try to prepare small bottles of that as preparation. And for girls out there, before you fly, try to check when you might be getting your period, because it might be better for you to bring some pads along. That's what I did, because I knew that my period was gonna fall during my quarantine, so I brought pads just to prepare in case I couldn't find them when I got here. Tip number 8. Bring a universal adapter. So if you're like me and you're traveling back from a different country, bring a universal adapter so that you can charge all your appliances while you're here. All of my chargers at the moment have the US heads, and I don't have any of the Malaysian heads anymore. So I remember that I had a universal adapter and I brought it, and that's the only reason why I can charge anything in this room. So before you fly, try to find or buy a universal adapter or find the Malaysian head. That's gonna make your life a lot easier and you'll be able to be productive while you're here. Tip number 9. Establish a routine. So what I've learned during this quarantine is that my sleep schedule is completely messed up. Not only am I dealing with jet lag, but I'm also sleeping all the time, and that's because I don't have a schedule. With a typical day when you're in school, you have all these hours lined up, but while you're in quarantine, you kinda don't have to do anything. I mean, I had assignments and all that, but I kinda did it in my own time and I would sleep whenever I want to. And because of this, my sleep schedules would get super messed up and I would feel super lethargic and I wouldn't even know what day it is. Like, I honestly forgot what day it was and I had to check my phone for that. So my biggest advice to you to keep sane during your quarantine process is to establish a routine. Decide where you want to wake up, decide what you want to do next. Plan out your day like it's a normal day, and I think that's how you'll survive through this quarantine. Tip number 10. This is more of a light-hearted kind of tip, but I wanted to put this out there for those who might be struggling in this entire quarantine process. Try to look at this in a more positive light. Like I said, this is a mandatory quarantine experience and you have no choice but to go with it. While you're stuck in this situation, yes, it sucks. You can't leave your room, you can't do much, you can't see your family. But try not to wallow in that negative energy and try to look at it in a more positive way. I think that's what really helped me get through these 5 days of quarantine. You know, think of it like this. You're on an extended vacation for 14 days, and now that you're in quarantine, you're just making sure that you don't pass the virus to someone that you love. And take this time in quarantine to work on yourself. Learn a new skill.
Yes!
Reconnect with old friends, play a new game, that kind of thing. There is so much you can do while you're in quarantine. I mean, I'm here making a YouTube video when I don't have to. Try to think positive and stay productive during this quarantine period, and honestly, I think the days will go by super fast. Well, that was my quarantine experience video, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it and maybe took something useful out of this. And just as a last note, I just want to say that I am honestly super thankful that the government has provided something like this for us. I feel like the Malaysian government is handling this coronavirus pandemic a lot better than a lot of countries, so I am super grateful with how they're approaching this. And if you know someone who might be traveling back to Malaysia anytime soon, feel free to share this video out with them. I hope that this video can kind of give you guys more insight about what you guys might go through. I'm also very active on all of my social media platforms. If you want to learn more about me or my quarantine process, you can follow me there. I'll put all the links in the description box below. Yeah, that's it from me, so click over here to subscribe to my channel, click over here to watch a video from me, and click over here for a video that YouTube has recommended for you. Anyways, I will see you guys hopefully very soon, and Be sure to stay safe, wash your hands often, and stay at home, guys. Alright, bye!